Lieutenant Robert James Thomas was just 23 years old when he gave his life for his country.
Born on December 19, 1948, Thomas was raised in Florida and joined the United States Air Force September 23, 1970.
He was stationed at Blytheville Air Force Base, and his wife, Earlene Thomas, taught at West Junior High School. In December 1972, Thomas became part of the war effort.
On December 18, 1972, he was a co-pilot on the B-52 named Charco 01.
December the 18th, 1972 was the day. My crew had flown its last mission on the 14th of December, and we're scheduled to leave Guam on the 18th to go home. So we were on crew rest, and we were packed up and ready to go. Towards the end of our tour, we came over as an integrated crew, as always. The co-pilot was taken off the crew and sent off to AC-47s or something because SAC decided he was too short physically to fly a B-52. So they sent us a co-pilot named Bill Buckley from Seymour Johnson, who was over there by himself, not with an integral crew. Buckley didn't have his 150 days in. Bill Buckley was taken off the crew, and Bobby Thomas, who was a Blytheville co-pilot, was put on our crew just to rotate home.
Thomas was killed in action after the plane was shot down over North Vietnam.
So he took off, climbing out normally. As we approached the Philippines, we were to rendezvous with a KC-135.
We were flying every night, sometimes 2 sorties out of Cadena over Busy Rooster, which was an air refueling track over northern Luzon in the Philippines. And we were refueling B-52s from Anderson, Guam. It was a long, long flight for them. 6 hours to target, 6 hours back to home drome. We would pick them up pre-strike, and each tanker refueled 3 bombers. And after they went on, we would go back to Cadena and recover. And about half the time, we would have what they'd call a jumping jack. We would get something to eat, relax a while, because we were going to pick up a fresh aircraft and pick up the receivers post-strike, heading back to Anderson. And on the night of 18 December, the sky was just a mass of aircraft.
We were a wave lead, so a wave is 3 cells, a cell is 3 B-52s. So we've got 8 B-52s behind us. And so they're catching up. We were crossing the ocean at 5-mile separation, and we got to the tanker. We didn't need much. It was a 5,000-pound offload, which is practically nothing. And so we all got our fuel. So then we go around, and we went up through Laos and up about 30 miles from the China border, and then we angled around from the west to the northeast, and then we're going in from the northwest to the southeast on the bomb run. And we'd be entering a 90-knot jet stream tailwind on the final. So for time control, I had to calculate all that stuff well in advance so that when we got to the bomb release point, we'd be exactly on time. So we got on the bomb run, we got that tailwind boost, which is kind of nice, except in the post-target turn, we'd be turning into it and lose 180 knots of ground speed in the post-target turn, and we'd be in the middle of about 3 or 4 SAM sites. So we're a long time in the lethal SAM site. Bombardier and I turned off our outside radios because there were so many SAM calls, and everybody was yelling and screaming about MiGs and SAMs, and we couldn't. So that was not I couldn't do anything about it anyway. We had to run checklists and get the bombs on the target. It was a dog leg in the bomb run. We turned the final turn. Bombardier and Bombardier put his crosshairs out, found the target, checked offset aiming points, which would put the crosshairs in a place we weren't going. Calculation would say this is what you should see. They were all perfect. The bombing system was perfect. There was no drift. We were exactly to the second on time. And then about 15 seconds before bomb release, it opened the bomb doors because those are big radar reflectors. And that takes 5 or 10 seconds for them to get fully open. I started a stopwatch at 10 seconds to go as backup, and just in case anything went wrong. And just a few seconds after I started the stopwatch, we lost power. We lost electrics, we lost the bombing system, we lost the radar. And I'm thinking, that co-pilot just knocked the generators offline. And then the co-pilot started yelling, "They've got the pilot, they've got the pilot." I thought, what? And the EW was yelling, "Is anybody alive? Is anybody alive?" And I'm like, what the? So I look around over my left shoulder, and through the porthole window in the bulkhead door that goes back into the forward wheel well, flames. So we had been hit at that point by a surface-to-air missile. The missile doesn't hit you. The missile blows up, and a bazillion pieces of shrapnel spread out like a shotgun blast. And so we had lost engines when the metal got into the engines. So probably maybe all 4 on the port side. The pilot had been hit by shrapnel. The gunner, who was behind the pilot facing aft, was slumped in the seat and covered in blood, and I'm pretty sure he was dead. EW had lost his earphones in the blast. I could hear him, but he couldn't hear us. The co-pilot was trying to control the airplane, and when I saw the fire, about the time I turned back around to say the EW ejected. EW's leaving, and I thought, dang, he's not supposed to go first. And so I tapped the bombardier, and I did this. It released the weapons. We're there. Dropped the bombs. We're on fire. The pilot's dying. The gunner's dead. The EW's already gone from the airplane. And so then it was time to leave. And there's an adage that says it's generally unwise to eject over the target you just bombed. I think John McCain may have written that, but I'll add the little footnote that says, especially if there are 8 B-52s behind you dropping bombs every 15 seconds while you're free falling. So I ejected, I went down, and almost did it incorrectly. All those hours of studying emergency procedures that I was never going to have to use. And with the downward ejection seat, the ejection handle is between your knees. It's a triangular ring. And part of the thing was, if you take it this way and pull up, you will lose your arms because your elbows will go out and they'll extend past the seat, and the hatch, you'll lose your arms. And I'd actually put pressure on it and realized that's the wrong way, and was able to turn my hands around inverted, so when I pulled up, my elbows would be tucked. And I left, and I thought the seat had failed because my panels in front of me were going up in slow motion. And I knew that the book said it took 1/10 of a second to clear the airplane. And I thought I'd never get away from it. The pilot actually ejected about the same time I did, because the bombardier said as soon as I started the sequence, the red light came on, and that was when the pilot ejected.
Coming back to meet the receivers going back to Guam, we happened to have charcoal again. Only this time, instead of 3 aircraft, there were 2 aircraft. And it was probably the quietest air refueling my crew had ever experienced. It was just utterly quiet.
originally listed as missing in action, he was promoted to captain.
Thomas's body was later repatriated on August 27, 1978, and returned to the United States and laid to rest in Evergreen Memorial Park in Miami-Dade County, Florida.
And his name is honored on panel 1W, row 95 of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C.
He left behind his wife, Earlene, his daughter, Carmen, his son, NFL Hall of Famer, Derek Thomas, and a host of grandchildren.
And he was like a local hero to Blytheville.
We can actually see someone who was from here, and it kind of really hits hard.
Thank you, Captain Thomas.
Thank you, Captain Thomas.
Thank you, Captain Thomas.
Thank you, Captain Thomas.